Okay, so to finish our discussion on tissue types, we need to look very briefly at the last two types. The first one is muscle tissue, and muscle tissue is specifically a type of tissue that is specialized for contraction. We have three types of muscle tissue: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth. And at this point, that's really all we want to know about muscle tissue, simply because we're going to be studying those very much in depth when we get to the muscular system. The last type is also one that we're going to spend very little time on, and that is neural tissue or nerve tissue. Okay, it's also called nervous tissue. This type of tissue is highly specialized for conducting electrical impulses. And 98% of all neural tissue in the body is found in two places. One is the brain, and the other is the spinal cord. Within neural tissue, and we will get more specific on this when we get to the nervous system, we do have two types of cells. One is a neuron, and these are the types of cells that communicate with each other using the electrical impulses. And then we also have the neuroglia, which are the supporting cells. Basically, neurons have lost the ability to take care of themselves, so these supporting cells actually do that for them. Now, tissues, like cells, can undergo injury. And so tissue injury is actually dealt with a little bit differently than cell injury, simply because you're talking about a group of cells versus a single cell. So when we restore tissue homeostasis after we have been injured, we have two processes that are involved: inflammation and regeneration. And that's what we're going to discuss here to kind of close out our discussion on tissues. And in addition, we're going to touch a little bit on aging. Inflammation is sometimes called the inflammatory response. And this is a very complex biochemical process. There's a lot of enzymes and indicators that actually work with it. We are going to keep it very simple. This is the first phase of restoration of homeostasis. Inflammation by itself is a process of isolation, because what we are trying to do is make sure that healthy tissue gets cut off from damaged cells as well as damaged tissue components. Both of these release certain chemicals that actually can disrupt the homeostasis of healthy tissue that maybe surround the injury site. In addition, we want to protect that healthy tissue from microbes or pathogens that may have entered the body as a result of the injury that has occurred. The symptoms of inflammation we're very familiar with. We have swelling, warmth, redness, and pain. Now, regeneration follows very quickly on the heels of inflammation. This is the second phase of repair. And what we're doing is we're either repairing or we are replacing with new tissue the damaged tissue. The first step that happens is that the fibroblasts make a very dense network of collagen fibers. This is what we refer to as scar tissue. It is a temporary fix for the damaged location. What happens is the scar tissue actually will remodel itself over time and become more normal in its shape and appearance. This remodeling process works best in epithelial tissue like your skin, smooth muscle, and any connective tissue except for cartilage. Now, in other tissues, the collagen, instead of being replaced by regular cells of the healthy tissue, they get replaced by fibrous connective tissue. And that process is called fibrosis. Now, certain things also happen to our tissues as we get older, and so aging definitely has an effect on our tissues. As our age increases, the speed and effectiveness of our repair of our damaged tissues goes down. In addition, our epithelial layer thins, and the connective tissue becomes more fragile. So, for instance, like with our skin, sometimes older people suffer from conditions that, like paper skin. Basically, the skin becomes so thin that just even something simple as bumping into a wall will tear the skin and cause, open wounds in the skin itself. You get an increase in the amount of bruising that takes place. The bones also become brittle, and you get more joint pain. In addition, throughout the course of our lifetime, as we damage cardiac muscle fibers and neurons, neither one of those are replaced. So what this means is those cumulative effects, as more continuous damage takes place, means that those will not be, at a certain point, we reach a point of major damage with a minor problem. So basically what happens is, something that may be very minor actually leads to a very big disruption in homeostasis because of the cumulative effects over time. Many of these effects are hormone related. And in addition, we get an increase in cancer rates. Again, simply because our exposure to things that tend to cause cancer is cumulative. I kind of usually describe it like a bucket. So over the course of your lifetime, you put things into the bucket that could cause cancer. And when that bucket overflows, then you're more likely to actually see that result in one or more of your cells that could cause a problem. So like I was saying, most of the problems that occur with aging occur because of the cumulative effects due to exposure or cell death over a particular lifetime. Interesting fact is that 40% of all cancers are caused by exposure to cigarette smoke. That is direct exposure by smoking as well as secondhand effects. Cancer, though, is the second largest cause of death. We tend to focus on cancer a lot because it's kind of that medical buzzword and everybody seems to want to find the cure for it. But the leading cause of death among humans is heart disease, which is preventable. All right, at this point we are going to go through the tissue map. So if you need to pause the video at this point to get that, let's go ahead. And then we'll move on with filling this in. Okay, so now we are looking at this concept map, and basically what this is going to do is tie together all of the different concepts of tissues that we discussed. So as you can see, starting at the top, we have tissues that are in 4 basic types. We have type 1 is epithelial, type 2 with number 1 is blank, type 3 is muscular, and type 4 is neural. So in number 1, we would put connective. Now, if we come down, follow epithelial, we have 3 different shapes of cells in epithelial tissue. We have squamous, we have cuboidal, and we have columnar. Muscular types consist of smooth, cardiac, and we have skeletal here. And then the last one on that row, neural tissue, consists of neuroglia and neurons. Okay, connective tissue drops down, and we have some other things to fill in here. Let's start here with the connective tissue proper. There are 2 types. We have dense, and then we have loose. If you drop down there, then we have the examples. Our areolar, which is basically in the breast tissue around the nipple or the areolus. And the other type is adipose. Dense connective tissue include tendons, and number 7 is ligaments. Then we come back up here to the supporting connective tissue, which we have bone, and the second type is cartilage. And then finally we have fluid connective tissue, which consists of lymph and blood. And again, this is a really nice summary of the different tissue types that we just spent this time talking about. In the next section, what we will do is we will actually be looking over some of our anatomical directional terms.